Hello, I'm Kyle Safarati, and I worked alongside Nick Losi and Alvaro Jaramillo on Neural Network for Ethics Problem Part 2. So our procedure, we were given 10 categories. You see 8 because trimester. It could be 1, 2, or 3. It could not be all of them, as we'll discuss in a few minutes. Ideally, there's a questionnaire that would be filled out with a yes or no. Is an abortion okay in this situation, or is it not? Given the scenario, data is entered into a neural network, and then new data or personalized data is entered into the function, and a no or a go or no-go decision is made by the neural network. So a go, no-go decision ethics, it's based on a moral stance that is widely accepted, yet remaining under some moral standards. All possibilities are given and randomly choose a scenario. You can give a 1 or a 0 based on moral standpoint, as in true or false specifically in this situation, in terms of ethics. And then give weights to different categories based on moral standpoint. So if the probability is less than 50%, then it's a no-go. If it's greater than 50%, it's going to be a go, specifically for this situation. So our application, as proof of concept, we have designed a neural network to work with 8 abortion-related inputs. Each input is represented as true or false in binary, and the following are the questions that we used. An extremely serious physical health problem affects the mother. The mother was raped. The child would interfere with work, school, or other necessary duties. The mother cannot afford to provide for the child, and so on as you read. Notice that 7, 8, and 9, only one of them can be true, which affected how we did our binary calculations, permutations, and also from the permutations how we randomly sorted. And then we also wanted to suggest watching a video on how the abortion procedure is conducted. Ideally, from our moral standpoint, this would allow the mother to know about the decision that she's contemplating, and it could greatly lower the amount of mothers that go through with the abortion. The reason we included this in the neural network is because some people believe if you've seen the video and it doesn't morally affect you, then there's nothing that can change you anyway. So if you've already watched the video, there's a greater chance that it's a go decision given your scenario, and if you haven't, there's a lesser chance because most people would suggest, well, just watch the video so you know what you're getting into. But ideally, this would turn away candidates from the go position, regardless of what the neural network returns. Initial data. We gathered our data from 3 different sources based on the percent of women that reported one of these as their excuse. And then we assigned weights that are outside of the neural network, but weights that we said where 9 is ethically acceptable and 0 does not have any ethical push, does not help the case for abortion. And based on those weights, that were also very similar to how we tried to fill out the go, no-go decision. Only 30% of people would have received a go decision, and 70% of lives, fetus lives, could have been saved, given a chance of life outside the womb. So this is kind of what we're going for, just saving lives at the minimum. Every life matters. So we're trying to save as many as possible, as can be demonstrated by this slide. So obtaining feasible scenarios. We took a general binary permutation code in MATLAB, and we added this special line of code and called it the permpost function. And this line of code limits the trimester to only being one of the possibilities. And then we wrote a gather perms function that gathers all the permutations starting with only one truth and ending with the maximum number of truths, which happens to be 8 for this scenario. And it displays them all in one matrix so we can have all our possibilities, which happens to be 384 different possibilities or different scenarios that a woman could be experiencing. And each of these will be broken down into 50 columns that will be randomly sent out anonymously to someone, a loved one of the woman contemplating abortion, in which they can fill out in which scenarios they think it's acceptable to have an abortion and which scenarios they think it is unacceptable. And then from that, we will gather all the family and loved ones chosen to be sent this survey, and their data will be put together, stacked on top of each other, and then entered into the neural network as X inputs, and their answers will be Y inputs. And this will ultimately result in one brain that defines the ethics behind all the people that were asked to fill out this survey. So in MATLAB neural network code, we use the pattern recognition app, and specifically for us, we took 3 members of the team, and we each pretended we were someone different, someone outside of our own morals, that had a middle stance on abortion, and keeping that person all the way through 50 questions. We filled them out, and then we stacked our answers, and our target was one brain decision: should we go or should we not go? And any woman can input her personal scenario and see, based off our 3 brains that we inputted combined into one, should she go or should she not go? Remember, we would be family members or friends to her, so it would have significance. So results out of 384 possible scenarios. You can see the graph of where they lay out, and remember that the first scenarios entered in the test only had one true value, all the way to the last ones entered in the test had many true values. So that's why you can see the grouping of points at the far extreme corners. So we wanted to check the definitiveness of the data in terms of our analysis, and we also, through this, could see the accuracy of the neural network. 69% of the data, the outputs, were between 0 and 10% from the extreme, which means it's very definitive, either a go or a no-go, which is very good, a brain making a definitive decision. We also note that an extra 15%, so 74%, were within 25% of the go, no-go decision extreme, which is very good. And you can see that total 94, so that was 84%, and then 94% are within 40% of the extreme, which is still definitive on which way the woman should choose. So some further application for this study and neural network of ethics and like-minded brains and mixing brains, we could see the Supreme Court taking this survey, and one neural network will be used to instantly make decisions on ethical issues like this. And this would prevent bias in the future, be it racial bias or any type of bias, because the decisions have already been made based off the brains of the Supreme Court. Also, the cost of an abortion could be based on a function that increases as the go percentage decreases, which means if you have a less ethical reason to get an abortion, you're going to spend a whole lot more money to get that abortion. Ideally, this would turn away people from getting an abortion or increase the likelihood that someone watches a video beforehand, and then that would lower their cost, but hopefully they wouldn't even want to have the abortion after they watch the video. And this survey could be taken by world leaders and religious leaders from across the globe. And this would allow an individual to ask the brain of a leader that they respect a go, no-go question without actually having to get in contact with that leader, which would be huge for decisions in religion specifically. So now I'll just bring you over to some of the actual files really briefly. So here you can see all of the possibilities that our perm posts and gather perms function generated. We can just scroll through all of the options and how they go up gradually in order of truths. More and more truths until the very end has the most truths, like the graph demonstrated. And if we add, we think this is ethical, then number answered will go up. And then if we take a specific scenario, for instance right here, we can test this in our function. As you can see, we ran the AB, Y, or N, abortion Y, yes or no, with our data set, and it returned back 0.03, which means this is a no-go decision. Given this scenario that you see right here, you should not have an abortion. So thank you for watching, and I hope you liked it.